Hey everybody, my name is Jesse and welcome to my wrestling show, the place where we talk about all things wrestling. And today I want to take a look at the Penn State Nittany Lions 2022-2023 wrestling lineup. Can they get 5 national champs again this year? Can anybody catch them in the team race? Let's talk about that right now. At 125 pounds, they're going to have Robbie Howard returning into the starting spot this year after a redshirt year from injury. 2 years ago when he was in the lineup, the one thing I really liked about him is he got better as the year went on. All the way up to the point where in the national tournament, he was able to pick up a win over a very, very tough Malik Heinzelman, who is a quality wrestler, a very quality win. He wrestled in the U20 US Open this past summer, lost in the first round to the wrestler who eventually won the tournament, and came all the way back and took third place. And so I'm interested to see is if he can take the next step, continue to grow on what he did 2 years ago. I'm interested to see on how he recovered from this injury and if there's any lingering effects. He's currently ranked at number 15 in the Intermat rankings, which is probably fine. The data on him's 2 years old. The only win he has that is above him is Malik Heinzelman. There is a lot of opportunity for him to move up here. This is a tough weight class. I mean, you have guys like Noah Certain, Malik Heinzelman, Anthony Noto, Matt Ramos, who aren't even in the top 10. And so he's going to have his work cut out for him. He's going to have lots of opportunities to prove himself. Can he get onto the All-American podium this year? He probably could. I'm not going to pick that this year, although I do think after this year, Robbie Howard ends up on the podium every single year for the remainder of his college wrestling career. So this year, I think he ends up in the blood round. I'm going to give him a ceiling of 7 or 8 because I do think he could squeeze up there if he continues on a really good growth, improving throughout the year, as low as maybe going 2-2, kind of finishing in that round of 16 range. 133 pounds, Roman Bravo Young, or RBY. So he's a 2-time national champ coming back to try to get his third. So RBY, this is my take on RBY. If you remember his true freshman year, he placed 8th as a true freshman. Very difficult to come out of high school, right into college, and start as a true freshman and end up on the podium. Very few people are able to do that. And he got better throughout his true freshman year. Into the COVID year, he consistently got better, all the way up to the point where the year after, year 2021, he won the national title, and then again last year. He keeps getting better and better every year. Do I think Dayton Fix or Vito Ruja are going to catch him and beat him? I do not think so. I actually think Roman Bravo Young is going to widen the gap, to be honest. And it's because of how much we've seen him get better every single year, right? He has consistently made gains, noticeable gains in his wrestling every single year. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't matches that I'm excited to see. Penn State potentially could wrestle Cornell down at the National Collegiate Duels in December. Cornell and Penn State could win their pools and wrestle in the finals. I'd love to see a Roman Bravo Young and a Vito Rujo match. I think that would be a crazy wild match with high-level scrambles. So that's something I definitely want to see. I do think Roman Bravo Young, of all the guys in Penn State's lineup, I think he is the most likely of a lock to win a national title on Penn State's team. And that's quite a statement when you're talking about Carter Starachi, Aaron Brooks, and other guys on the team. I think he's going to take another level and widen the gap with the rest of the field. Bo Bartlett. So this is an interesting one. He's coming down. He wrestled 149 last year. He's dropping down to 141. He needs to find some offense. low scoring matches most of the time. He wrestles those top tier wrestlers really good. Sammy Sasso, Yaya Thomas, he wrestles them tough. He keeps it close. But even on his victories, they're close matches. And so I need him to find some more offense. I'll be interested to see what the weight change does for him going down to 141. I normally don't put too much stock into a weight change. I have found that changing weights doesn't typically change. I don't see huge swings of success either way. I know there are some outliers. There are some examples where guys have changed weight and they've really had more success or less. But I think that's the exception, not the rule. Put down in the comments if there's some guys that I'm not thinking about that changing weights has really made a huge difference in the results. So Bo Bartlett, this year I'm going to put his ceiling in a blood round. The good thing about this weight class is there's a lot of opportunity for people to move up this weight class. And so, a CJ Composto, a Jake Berglund, a Clay Carlson, these are the top 3 or 4 guys. And while they're really tough wrestlers, I do think Bo could beat them. The question is could he beat those guys, those type of guys 3 times in a row without more offense? And I'm not sure that I'm convinced yet that he can do that. So I'm going to say his ceiling is probably a blood round and then a floor of probably around a 16. He's a solid wrestler. I think he's definitely going to win 1 or 2 matches at the NCAA tournament. But can he string a few of those really tough matches together without a ton of offense? It's hard to win 3-2, 4-3 consistently over and over again. And so looking to see his offense develop this year. 149, Shane Van Ness. This is just a big question mark to me, right? He only had 2 matches last year. Ended up not wrestling due to injury. I don't think he wrestled at all during the summer, at least nothing that I've noticed. And so we really haven't seen him in college. He did beat, I can't remember the guy's name he beat. He beat a non-qualifier guy, but a fringe qualifier, but just on the outside. He majored him 10-2. So I think that's evidence to say, he's ranked 27 here on Intermat. I think there's evidence there that he could easily be, 16, 15, 14, 13 type guy. We just don't know that yet. Huge upside, ultra recruit coming out of high school, but we just haven't seen him wrestle in so long. I'm not sure what we're going to get, but huge upside, high pace, going to attack. I'm going to put his ceiling. This is a pretty deep weight. And with a variable like this, I'm going to put a ceiling as a blood round, maybe even around a 16, just because there's so many unknowns here. And then I'll put his floor. Man, it's hard to see him not winning at least a couple matches at the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to put his ceiling at 12. The blood round, the round of 12, and then his floor at the round of 16 going into this year. And that's only because this is a really deep weight class. Potentially he could come out like a Jason Nolf, a Bo Nickel, and we could see him wrestling on Saturday night. But there's no evidence to support that conclusion at this point. 157. So who's going to step up, right? Who's going to take this spot? Penn State has struggled at this weight class ever since Jason Nolf graduated. They're going to kind of continue to struggle this year at this weight class. Joe Lee, he was the 165-pound starter a couple years ago and looked promising, but he really hasn't been able to take the next step. Actually, I like Joe Lee to probably get this starting spot here. Just because I've seen more of his wrestling and I've seen the potential he has to get some national qualifier type wins. So I'm going to put a ceiling. I'll put a ceiling at 2-2 at the national tournament, round of 16 kind of guy. And then I'll put his floor as not qualifying, just because we haven't we haven't seen too much out of this weight class of Penn State the past few years. Alex Facundo. So he had 2 losses last year to guys who didn't qualify for the NCAA tournament. So he had kind of a strange folk style season. And then he goes into U2020, the junior tournament, US Open, dominates the field, dominates at the World Team Trials, goes to the Junior World Championships and loses in the first round to Iran. But then the guy he loses to loses the very next round, and his tournament's over at 0-1. And so he's currently ranked here at number 23, and that's probably fine. Again, he doesn't have a lot of marquee wins yet. So, another high-level recruit coming out of college, but we just haven't seen that on the mat yet. Based on his results, I mean, his U20 tournament gives me, if you're a Penn State fan, that's got to give you a lot of optimism of like, he just crushed everyone in that field, and that's a tough tournament. But then he couldn't really turn it into wins at the World Championships. I'm going to put his ceiling at a round of 16. We don't really have any evidence to say he's going to be a blood round or an All-American. The tough part is this is a really deep weight. The top 9 guys are really, really good. So I'm going to put him in the round of 16, and then a floor, I'm going to say round of 24. I definitely think he wins a match or 2 at the NCAA tournament. We'll see if he can improve and continue to get better and maybe crack into that round of 16, round of 12 matches. Carter Starocki, 174 pounds, 2-time national champ. Over this past weekend, he got bronze at the U23 World Championships. The match he lost, he ended up losing. He got leg laced and rolled 3 or 4 times. So he lost in a freestyle position, and then he was able to get a couple takedowns himself. So going into this year, again, if you think back to his redshirt freshman year, his very first match, he loses to DJ Washington of Indiana. But then he continues to get better. He's getting better, and now he's just a monster on the mat. I do think the only guy who can kind of wrestle with him is Mekhi Lewis in this field. I'm excited to see them wrestle at the All-Star Classic coming up in November. Tune into that match. That's going to be awesome. A rematch of the national finals, and maybe a preview of the national finals coming into this year. Other than Mekhi Lewis, he's wrestled Mikey Labriola a few times and has won that match consistently. Ethan Smith, same story. So can Mekhi Lewis beat Carter Starocki? He probably could with his reattacks. If Mekhi Lewis wins that match, it's going to be 3-2. Carter Starocki could blow it open, and if it's like an 8-3 match, it's going to be in Carter Starocki's favor. Mekhi Lewis, if he's going to win, most likely it's going to be a low-scoring match. Aaron Brooks, 184 pounds, 2-time national champ, coming back for his 3rd. There's really only 2 guys in this field that can wrestle with Aaron Brooks, and that's Parker Keckeisen and Trent Hidley. I do think Aaron Brooks needs to be worried about Parker. I am so impressed with Parker Keckeisen every time I see him wrestle. When Parker and Aaron Brooks wrestled at the National Collegiate Duels down in Florida this past year, I mean, what a match that was. It was low scoring, but there were so many high-level wrestling exchanges. The thing about Aaron Brooks is he's impossible to take down. Like, you just cannot take this human being down. If you are going to get a takedown, it has to be after a 3rd and 4th try. It's never you set it up, you get in deep, and you finish. It's always you set it up, you get in deep, he battles you out, you get in deep, you change to another leg, you switch out to a double, you go to, so many different exchanges to finally get a takedown. It's got to be somewhat of a scrambly exchange, at least in the matches that I've seen where Aaron Brooks gets taken down. There's not many of them. It's kind of a scrambly exchange. When Trent took him down, it was that way. And so you got to find a way to take this guy down, and that's a tall order for either Parker Keckheisen or Trent Hiley. So 197, Max Dean, a returning national champ. The question here, is he vulnerable? Some might say yes, because he wrestles Jacob Borner, all these guys really, really closely. Even Gavin Hoffman. The matches he wrestled with these guys are always 3-2, 4-2, 4-3. He lost to Cam Caffey. So these matches are always really close, and it always seems like the opponent is close to getting that win over Max Dean, but he's so tough on top. He gets that ride time point. He wrestles tough, and he just finds a way to win. And so of the returning champs, he's the most vulnerable, but he just finds the way to win those close matches. And so the other interesting thing here is it's going to be his second year in that Penn State room. He transferred in from Cornell last year. How does a full 18 months in that Penn State room, a full summer in that Penn State room, how does that develop him and his offensive game? That'll be something to look out for coming into this season. And last, Greg Kurtlevitt at 285 pounds or heavyweight. The question here is, can he figure out Tony Cassiope? He struggled with him. Gable Stevenson's gone, so none of the guys have to worry about him. The four guys here, these top four guys, Colton Schultz, Greg, Mason Paris, and then Tony Cassiope. These are the four best guys. Greg has consistently beaten Mason Paris. Can he continue to do that? Can he figure out Tony Cassiope and find his way to the top of the title, top of the podium this year? Okay, can anybody catch Penn State? And the short answer is probably not. But if you want to play devil's advocate, Intermat has them at 100 points right now. And those 100 points are coming from your five guys. They're coming from Roman Bravo Young. They're coming from Carter Starachi. They're coming from Aaron Brooks. They're coming from Max Dean and Greg Kurtlevitt. So they're coming from those five guys, and that's it. And so if one of them underperforms, if one of them gets hurt, that's 25 points gone, and all of a sudden you're in a dogfight with Iowa. And if you think the last year when Iowa won the national title, Penn State had 4 national champs but still got second place. And so it is possible to get 4 champs and not win the tournament. And so could an Iowa, could a Arizona State, could a Ohio State, could a Missouri catch Penn State? They could, but they'd have to do it in the form of getting 7, 8, 9 All-Americans at 5 or above on the podium. And that's just really, really tough to do. And Roman Bravo Young, these guys, there's just not much of a floor with these guys. Max Dean, if he has a horrible tournament, he's probably getting third, right? If Aaron Brooks just lays an egg, he's probably getting second. If Carter Starachi has the stomach flu the day before and a sprained right wrist, he's probably getting second, right? And so they just have such a high floor. It's likely not anyone's going to catch them, but you never know. You have to wrestle a tournament. It's going to be an interesting year because there's a lot of opportunity for them to gain some extra points, right? What is Shane Van Ness going to look like? What is Robbie Howard going to look like? What is Bo Bartlett going to look like down a weight? So there's a lot of questions here still for this lineup, even though there's some core solid guys. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment. Let's build a community around the sport that we love, the sport of wrestling, and we'll see you next time.